Good morning, everyone. It's December 22nd, 2018. Our globalist soldiers of the Antichrist leading this world rush to World War III and the end of life upon planet Earth. If we stay on this road, nothing less than the end of the world as we know it awaits us. This is from Stefan Stanford, All News Pipeline. And there's another one here. This one's on someone'sbones.com. If my damn computer would fucking cooperate here. Migrant caravan armed with RPGs and Kalashnikovs. And this is from November 25th. I've talked about some of these people coming in our country or corporation with AK-47s and AR-15s, among other things. Now, I'm not against people having these things in any way, shape, or form, but if they're sneaking over our border with them, you have to wonder what their intent is. But, you know, there's more than enough guns in America to stop such a thing from happening if people would just get some balls. So, let's see, my computer's not cooperating with me. Russia now holds escalation dominance over America if we were to get into nuclear war against them. Dr. Peter Vincent Fry called the Holy Grail of superiority, and largely thanks to Barack Obama's New START nuclear treaty, as we read in this new article over at Pro News that Steve Quayle had linked to on his website. Thursday morning, Russian President Vladimir Putin is warning of catastrophe ahead if we continue upon the road we're on. And despite the fact that tens of millions of Americans elected Donald Trump as president partially to avoid just such a scenario, with even the Kremlin warning back in 2016 that a Hillary presidency would have likely led to nuclear war, the globalists who long ago sold out America for globalism seem to think nothing of a planet-ending nuclear holocaust should it get them out of the treasonous mess they've created for themselves. Now, there is a much easier way for them to get out of their treasonous mess, and that would be an EMP. I've discussed this ad nauseum in previous videos. The simplest way for them to erase all the evidence against them is to launch a nuclear weapon into the stratosphere and detonate it. And then any evidence that's held by the NSA or others would be wiped out. So, in quotes, if the U.S. places mid-range missiles in Europe, then Russia will be forced to use countermeasures. If this happens, then God forgive us. It can lead to the death of all civilization and possibly the whole planet. As the Mirror reports in this new article, which the Drudge Report linked to Thursday morning, Putin has said that America's lowering of the threshold for use of nuclear weapons could lead to global catastrophe, though Putin hopes that common sense will prevail. common sense will not prevail. Okay, it just won't. And look at this shit. And how often does it? How often does common sense prevail? I mean, again, look at where they place nuclear power plants, among other things. I think Vladimir Putin needs to stop engaging in wishful thinking, just like those stuck in the left-right paradigm. Yet, if we're looking for common sense with the globalists in 2019, it'll likely be in very short supply. And it's not just globalist people, it's most of the politicians out there. Most of them. With Putin also warning in his final press conference of 2018 that the threat of nuclear war should not be underestimated. We'll take a look within the remainder of the story at what could be one of the biggest threats facing Americans and the world in the coming year. With the completely insane globalists here in America still pushing for nuclear war with a country that could wipe us completely off the map, quite literally sending America back to the dark ages, while looking at the preparation that the globalists have long been taking for such a shit-hit-the-fan event in America. And with the mainstream media completely refusing to report the fact that MAD, mutually assured destruction, is no longer mutual, and we've talked about this before. America has abandoned the mutually assured destruction treaty and in favor of a first strike policy. Okay. And with mainstream media completely refusing to report the fact that MAD have no idea that such a war is a war that the U.S. could never win due to Russia's new hypersonic nuclear weapons and all the technological advances they've made while America under Obama floundered. Simply put, if those pushing for war with Russia get their way, life would soon be over for them and everybody that they have ever known and loved. All family members dead and gone. Unless, of course, they're part of a part of that Luciferian New World Order cult that has already reserved their spaces in the deep state underground bunkers scattered throughout America. As the Daily Mail reports in this new article, with the nuclear arms treaty to explore in 2021, and no talks of either country planning on re-signing it, the International Arms Control Treaty is effectively breaking down. Yet the globalists still want the guns of the American people. Putin also took an indirect shot at President Trump, saying of the treaty, "Not interested? Don't need it? Well, alright then. We'll survive with that. We will ensure our security. We know how to do that." The Daily Mail article also warned of the end of all life on planet Earth. They want to make small-scale nuclear weapons in order to use them tactically, but lowering the threshold might lead to a global nuclear catastrophe. Putin also said the U.S. is pondering the use of non-nuclear ballistic missiles, saying such a missile could be mistaken for a nuclear-tipped one and trigger a global catastrophe. And yes, if I were Russia in that position, I would just flat out lie about it being mistaken for one, and I would nuke America. I mean, think about it. If, God forbid, something like that were to happen, it would lead to the end of all civilization and maybe also the planet, he said. And you have to admit, Putin's been pretty patient with the United States. In my opinion, probably overly patient. He's clinging to this hope that the United States is going to somehow come to its senses, or somehow we're going to come to our senses and put an end to this government. Literally, our government is the biggest threat to life on planet Earth, and nobody seems to fucking care. As Ray Gano reports in this important new article at Prophazine, what we're now witnessing all across the planet is nothing less than a global war between good and evil that has been taking place upon many different fronts, and if the globalist soldiers of the Antichrist who long been pushing for war with Russia get their way, nothing less than future life upon this planet is at stake. Yet, as we've reported numerous times at ANP, apocalyptic Islam usually, or actually, wants such a war and the complete destruction of our planet, as they believe such a war will bring on their Antichrist Mahdi. They say they're happy to see Ray's website back up. I guess they were viciously attacked and knocked offline. They just pretty much brown-nosed that guy there. And while many believe that Barack Obama was a Muslim, and it's clear that many of his policies were pro-Muslim and anti-Christian, we have to ask, are Islamic sleepers who seek the destruction of the entire human race masquerading as U.S. government employees? And yes, the answer to that is yes, they are, among others, still within the deep state, pushing for continued hostilities with Russia that they believe will lead to a nuclear war, a war that they want to happen. This comes from the National Review. To misunderstand the nature and threat of evil is to risk being blindsided by it. And there's a lot of people out there that would say that I'm evil. But nothing could be further from the truth. I have no desire to rule over and control other people. I have no desire to harm other people. I just want to be left alone. I want the state to fuck off, and that's it. He says, we face not just one but two regional regimes whose rulers have driven not merely, or are driven not merely by violent political ideology or by extremist theology, but by apocalyptic, genocidal, end times theology. The first is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And look, there's no evidence that Iran is planning on doing anything. But, you know, since we've declared them our enemy, the United States, it's very possible they now want to. I know the people of Iran are not very fond of the United States. After all, we did install a Shah there and he was not a very nice guy. So, the second is the Islamic State, or ISIS. The leaders of the former are Shia, the latter are Sunni. Both believe that we are living in the end of days as predicted in their ancient prophecies. Both believe that any moment now their Messiah, the Mahdi, will be revealed on earth as he establishes his global Islamic kingdom and imposes Sharia law. Both believe that Jesus will return not as the Savior or Son of God, but as a lieutenant to the Mahdi, and that he will force non-Muslims to convert or die. Not likely. That right there goes completely against what is said to be the teachings of Jesus. What's more, both believe that the Mahdi will come only when the world is engulfed in chaos and carnage. And we're not too far from that, are we? They openly vow not simply to attack, but to annihilate the United States and Israel. Iran and ISIS are both eager to hasten the coming of the Mahdi. Both believe that the day of judgment is coming soon, when they will be either rewarded for their actions or condemned to hell for eternity. Again, Iran hasn't engaged in any kind of conquest for a very long time. They're in Syria at the request of the Syrian government. Now, can the same be said for our country? I'm not Muslim. Clearly, I don't like the motherfuckers. They're perverted, crazy people, just like the Jews are, and some of the Christian branches. But they haven't engaged in any wars of conquest. They haven't been stealing or overthrowing governments and stealing resources from other countries. But our governments have, Israeli and American governments. So I would say that these guys here, I have to disagree with Stefan here. These guys here are much less of a threat to myself and you than our own government and Israel. Now, they pointed out back on April 16th, one false flag away from the end of the world as we know it is covert underground World War III preparation now taking place. It's been taking place for at least the last 7 years, if not longer. I'm gonna assume longer. As Putin warns of global chaos, mysterious underground booms return to America. So, and they go through all the stuff that happens. Russia has prepared humongous underground nuclear bomb shelters for a sizable portion of their population. Susan Duclos had reported just days ago on AMP, while a huge number of food recalls had happened recently, and experts have forecast food shortages in the future for the planet, or for the general population rather. Even Bloomberg had reported back in September that a huge number of global elite were preparing for the apocalypse. And you know about the bunkers and all the shit that they've been buying. People like to call the city, I would say, under the Denver International Airport, conspiracy theorists, many people have long believed that the DIA will be the home to the global Luciferian elite following a Third World War, which turns nuclear. And any look at a potential World War III would not be complete without a look at the nation of China. Now, I've been talking about World War III since I was in my 20s, and how it would end up involving Russia and China. And even back then, I recognized our allies would turn their backs on us, and they have started and will continue. We will continue to lose allies. They will continue to turn their backs on us. China, their military isn't all that great. They're very distracted, and they're very weak because they haven't been in any combat, but they do have large numbers. So with the still lingering hostilities with Russia that could lead to nuclear war against a country that could completely wipe us off the map still happening despite President Trump being in office for nearly 2 years, and Democrats and globalists so completely consumed by Russia hysteria. As for ruling the world, we know where the headquarters trying to do that are located, and the place isn't Moscow, he said. Nothing that the Pentagon's annual budget of over $700 billion endorsed Russia's defense spending of $46 billion. He dismissed claims that Russia is interfering abroad, and I'm thinking this because I skipped a good chunk of that last paragraph. I'm thinking they're talking about Putin here. So, even with Trump here, even with the firing of that general, we're still at risk with Russia and China. And of course, Iran is an ally to Russia. I'm not sure about China, but I know they're an ally to Russia, and well, I'm guessing that if Russia goes against us, Iran will go against us too. But Putin's been more than patient. He's spent years being bullied by Washington's politicians, and I think our days of reckoning as a nation are not far off. Not far off at all. So, tell me what you think. Do you think we're going to still enter into a Third World War in spite of beloved by the conservatives and right President Trump? Or is he the man? Is he going to get the shit done? You know my take. Anyway, kill the state before the state kills you.